Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forsyth, choking on some ice. Today we're taking a look at the Seattle Kraken. Who would the Seattle Kraken select with their first pick in their 2021 NHL draft? We'll be taking a look at that in this video. So, let's get right into it. So, there's a couple of guys that this team could look at with their first pick. And you could go in a lot of directions. Do you want a goaltender? Do you want a defenseman? Do you want a winger? Do you want a center? There's a lot of things that the Ottawa Senators can do. And if I'm the Ottawa Senators today, what do I look at in terms of my draft board sheet, right? So I'm projecting what the Ottawa Senators have on their draft, or what the Seattle Kraken, they're going to be walking to the draft and saying, this is our top five, and this is who we want to select in this order. So if he's not there, we're going to go to the next guy. And if he's not there and he's not there, we're going to go to the next guy. That's what we're going to see here with Seattle, and that's what we're doing here. So we're playing a little bit of armchair GM. So, number one, if they get the number one selection, the number one guy on their board is absolutely left shot defenseman Owen Power. If they get the first pick, they will select Owen Power. And he's the best player in this draft right now. 10 out of 10 scouts recently had him as the number one overall draft pick. Safe to say that most people would assume he will be number one. Now, there is some competition for some other guys like Dylan Genscher, right? But I don't even have him in my top 10 here for the Seattle Kraken, because I think there's other areas that they should look at before they look at a winger. So, that means at number two, I think this is the guy that, again, I am sold. I am sold on the idea that they are getting William Eklund from Djurgårdens. I think this is the right guy for Seattle. You're going to get, and the reason I say this, it's not because I don't like the defenseman. They are going to have a plethora of options for defensemen at this year's expansion draft. We always see that. We saw this with Vegas in their expansion draft. There's a lot of defensemen that get left unprotected. So if Seattle's going to be spending a lot of their picks on these better defensemen than some of these maybe weaker forwards that are paid too much, you're going to be looking at adding some forward depth to your group. And William Eklund not only is a forward, he's a center, which adds more value. He can play the wing, but he can also play next season. He's already playing in the SHL with Djurgårdens. He's already got 23 points in 40 games. This is a guy that the Seattle Kraken, if it's not Owen Power, it should be William Eklund right behind Owen Power. And I don't know how else to say it, but I really like what I've seen from Eklund. I think he could jump into the NHL next season, which would obviously help the Seattle Kraken out and just add a little bit of depth to their group. I think this is a great pick if it's not Owen Power. So now things get a little bit more interesting. The next two guys are kind of in their own order. It could be either or. We have Matt Beniers from the University of Michigan and Kent Johnson from the University of Michigan. They're both playing in Michigan. Yes, so did Owen Power. So three of the top four guys in Seattle's potential scouting rankings could have three of them from the University of Michigan and the Michigan Wolverines. Yes, we're in that world. So Matt Beniers and Kent Johnson, they're kind of similar players. They're good. I think Matt Beniers is projected to be the better guy, so I had Beniers ahead of Johnson. But again, it comes back to my thought process that they need to add a center. And if they add a center with their first pick, they're going to have a plethora of defensemen. It makes sense why they would maybe make this move and bring in Matt Beniers at that pick. But again, Kent Johnson is another guy that I think they will look at ahead of maybe a defenseman or a goaltender. And that's who we're getting to next. The only other defenseman I see the Seattle Kraken legitimately taking with their pick, and again, this is top 5 projections, top 6, because they have the odds of the third team in the NHL. So let's see, I have 6 players here. So at worst, they would be selecting the 6th guy. But again, this doesn't include Dylan Genscher, who I think would be selected. He will not make it to number 6. So that kind of changes how this works. But again, if I'm the Seattle Kraken and I'm creating a franchise, not that I don't like Dylan Genscher, the winger, but I'm looking for a center or a legitimate blue liner or maybe the goaltender. So we'll get into that. We'll get there. We're getting there, guys. We're almost there. Luke Hughes, left shot defenseman playing with the U.S. National Development Program, is another option here for the Seattle Kraken. This is a guy that I don't think is going to play in the NHL next season. Now, he does have his brothers Quinn and Jack Hughes who are playing in the NHL with Vancouver and New Jersey. So maybe he does have a leg up over some of his other prospects here in this draft class. Maybe he does make the NHL next season. But I think as a defenseman especially, I think he's going to have to wait another year. That would be the best option here for the Seattle Kraken. And again, it's not that he's not ahead of these other players in terms of skill, but it's positionally, I think it would be best suited for Seattle to look at forwards, specifically centers, ahead of a guy like Luke Hughes. But again, Luke Hughes is another great player. You take the best player available at that spot. What is that? At number 5, you take the best player available, and I would take Luke Hughes. And that means at number 6, I have goaltender from the SHL, Lilia, Jesper Wallstedt. Everybody has been craving the thought of Jesper Wallstedt being a top 5, maybe top 10 NHL draft pick. And a guy in Yaroslav Askarov last season, everybody was projecting him to maybe be a top 5 pick. He ended up going 15 to Nashville, or 16. And we saw that same sort of result 2 years ago with Spencer Knight going to the Florida Panthers. So this is kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing the goaltenders selected between 10 and 20. Now, Jesper Wallstedt maybe falls that far, or maybe he goes in the top 5, maybe top 6 here with the Seattle Kraken. Franchise goaltenders don't just walk around that often. And if I'm the Seattle Kraken, I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe we could find this goaltender in the 3rd, the 4th, maybe the 5th round of the NHL draft. But we have that guarantee that this kid will be ready in 3 or 4 years, and we have a legitimate goaltender in the future. That may be the way Seattle looks. And it's weird using this early of a pick on a goaltender, but we've seen it done in the past. Hasn't always worked out, but it has worked in other areas. Marc-Andre Fleury. So maybe we see the Seattle Kraken do that. But like I said, the most likely guys we're going to see go to Seattle, I think it's Owen Power, William Eklund, or Matt Beniers. Those are my top 3. If I had a gun to my head and I said, and somebody asked me who is Seattle picking, I would go with William Eklund. Like I said, unless they're getting that first pick, which they may at the NHL draft lottery, if they get the first overall pick, it's Owen Power. But anything behind that, I like William Eklund and Matt Beniers in some order. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Guys, welcome, Seattle Kraken fans. Welcome to the NHL family. I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. I haven't talked about the Seattle Kraken recently, but I'm here to talk about the Kraken here ahead of the 2021 NHL Draft. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of who the Seattle Kraken will be selecting with their first pick in franchise history? Let me know down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and let's go Kraken.